The gloves are off in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Jim Jordan and the House Judiciary Committee released a statement saying, quote, "The House Judiciary Committee will hold a field hearing on Monday, April 17th, 2023 at 9 a.m. Eastern in New York City, New York. The hearing, Victims of Violent Crime in Manhattan, will examine how Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's pro-crime, anti-victim policies have led to an increase in violent crime and a dangerous community for New York City residents." The Manhattan DA's office took to Twitter with their response, saying, quote, "Don't be fooled. The House GOP is coming to the safest big city in America for a political stunt. This hearing won't engage in actual efforts to increase public safety, such as supporting national gun legislation and shutting down the iron pipeline. The Manhattan DA's office welcomes public safety conversations. We have them every day with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners. In fact, we'll start. Just released NYPD data shows shootings and homicides are down in New York City for the first quarter of this year, with progress in Manhattan helping to drive the overall citywide decrease. Virtually every major crime category is lower in Manhattan now than it was last year as of 4/2/23. Murders are down 14%, shootings are down 17%, burglaries are down 21%, and robberies are down 8%. In DA Bragg's first year in office, New York City had one of the lowest murder rates of major cities in the United States, 5.2 out of 100,000, nearly 3 times lower than in Columbus, Ohio, 15.4. If Chairman Jordan truly cared about public safety, he could take a short drive to Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Akron, or Toledo in his home state instead of using taxpayer dollars to travel hundreds of miles out of his way. But let's consider for a moment why Republicans are doing this. They're basically suggesting that Alvin Bragg's prosecution of Trump was entirely political, given that New York has crime, shocker, and that Bragg prosecuting Trump for white-collar crime means that somehow other crimes are going unaddressed, as if Alvin Bragg is the only person prosecuting crime in all of Manhattan. There are no other cops, it's just Alvin Bragg out there, and when he's focused on Trump, it is carte blanche for homicidal lunatics to run rampant across the city. I've said it before and I'll say it again, no one has more contempt for their own supporters than Republicans, because let's face it, if you expect full-grown adults to believe that, then you despise the people who've placed their trust in you. Also, notice how these Republicans keep equating Trump's crimes with murder and rape, as if Trump shouldn't be prosecuted for white-collar crime. That white-collar crime is totally okay now because violent crime also exists, as if prosecuting crime is a zero-sum game. Here's an idea, maybe all crime should be prosecuted, including both violent crime and non-violent white-collar crime, which, by the way, is what Alvin Bragg is doing. The crime rate in New York is actually lower than the national average, but still that hasn't stopped Republicans from pushing the narrative that they want to push. For example, here's this tweet from Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yesterday, a man was shot in cold blood in DA Alvin Bragg's NYC. People are murdered in Manhattan every day as a result of Bragg's pro-crime policies. But what is Alvin Bragg focused on? The political persecution of Donald Trump, an innocent man who hasn't committed a crime. And so this is what Republicans are going to do. They got their marching orders. They're going to focus on every individual instance of crime in a city of 8 million people, as if all of that is evidence that Trump's prosecution is misguided. And so even though homicides have fallen to their lowest level since 2019 in New York, and even though crime more broadly in New York has plummeted to a fraction of what it was in the 80s and 90s, Republicans are going to make everyone think that crime is surging there because the lies are the point. What that narrative ignores is the reality, which paints a much less convenient picture for Republicans. According to a comprehensive study from Third Way, it turns out that per capita murder rates are, on average, 40% higher in states that Trump won compared to those that Biden won. And yes, 8 of the top 10 worst murder rate per capita states voted for Trump in 2020. Even going into the cities, Bakersfield is run at the local level by Republicans and is even represented in Congress by the Republican speaker, and that city has a higher per capita murder rate than Los Angeles or San Francisco. Republican-led Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City both have per capita murder rates that triple and double, respectively, that of New York City. And just to build on that, it doesn't look like it's trending in the right direction in red states either. The state with the highest percent increase in per capita murder rate, Wyoming, with a 91.7% increase. The second highest increase, South Dakota, with a 69% increase. In fact, 6 of the top 10 states with the highest percent increases in per capita murder rates are red states. And besides Wyoming and South Dakota, include Nebraska, Kentucky, Virginia, and Kansas. Not exactly liberal bastions, are they? You know what state isn't even in the top 10? New York. If Marjorie Taylor Greene cared about reality, this might prove interesting to her. And all of this was a point that Gavin Newsom pointed out during my interview with him this week. You know, you've been one of the only people in the Democratic Party who's been able to effectively call out the violent crime rates in these red states, despite these red state politicians basically just calling out blue states as if crime is just a problem here. Can you speak on that issue for a moment?
Yeah, I'm in a state that has 28% higher murder rate than the state of California. I'm here in the freedom-loving state of Florida. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. 8 of the top 10 murder states in terms of increase in murder rates are all red states. By the way, 7 of the top 10 dependent states are those same states with lower life expectancy, higher infant mortality, maternal mortality, some of the worst health outcomes in the country. I mean, how the Democrats, look at their GDP rates, 60+% of the GDP in this country are in blue states. How are we losing these debates?
Yeah.
How are we losing these debates? We got to go on the offense. We can't continue to be on the defense, and nor can we continue to focus exclusively, I say with love and respect, just on Washington, D.C. It's the United States of America, and there's 25, 26 states where people are in real peril of their rights being rolled back in real time, their liberties, their freedoms. It's happening. It's time to pay more attention.
But what I find especially interesting is that while Republicans will fall over themselves pointing to crime, even despite the fact that they themselves oversee more dangerous states than Democrats, when they do have the opportunity to actually do something about it, beyond just using it as a cudgel against blue states and districts, they block every single solution. How many mass shootings have we had in this country that have been followed by Republicans offering thoughts and prayers, followed by Republicans saying that now isn't the time to talk policy, it's a time to grieve, followed by Republicans claiming that any effort to stop these shootings would just politicize the issue, followed by Republicans actually loosening gun laws. And so what's happened? More shootings, more injuries, more deaths. So forget about the fact that red states are more dangerous. Even when given the opportunity to solve these issues, still they refuse. If their misguided talking points weren't bad enough, their unwillingness to actually fix anything really is the nail in the coffin here. And let's end with this, because this is another misguided Republican talking point surfaced by Republicans, that Trump did nothing wrong. Let's be perfectly clear here. Donald Trump was indicted in New York on 34 felony charges. At the center of this is Trump's $130,000 hush money payout to Stormy Daniels to keep her from disclosing their affair to help him in the election. Trump falsely labeled these expenses as legal expenses. Disguising corporate records as something other than what they are is a crime in New York and has always been a crime in New York, albeit a misdemeanor. But it's elevated to a felony when it's in furtherance of another crime, which in this case it was, considering those funds were used to help Trump's campaign by hiding that affair so that they didn't hurt his election prospects. And that was all buttressed by the fact that these payments were made on October 27, 2016, only days before the presidential election. That is a violation of campaign finance laws. And those are only a couple of the charges. There are 34 felony charges in total, so the idea that Trump did nothing wrong is laughable. And the fact that the Law and Order Party is suggesting as much really does go to show what a sham their branding actually is. Before you go, a quick announcement. I've started a Spanish YouTube channel. Democrats desperately need to be able to appeal to Spanish-speaking audiences, so this is me doing my part. To help that channel get going in the algorithm so that we can finally start spreading our progressive message and breaking the conservative stranglehold on Spanish-speaking media, please subscribe and watch a few videos. The link to that channel, called Brian Tyler Cohen Espanol, is right here on this screen. And of course, to see more of my content in English, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. The link is also right here on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.